Good morning, my friends. Good morning. How is everybody doing today? Welcome to our Ashes to Rubies morning devotional, morning meditation.
Good morning.
We're just talking about talking fast or talking slow. And I was reminded of two Newfoundland guys that came to the treatment center at Jericho Road that I was managing at the time. And they were their own comedy act. Like the Newfoundland people are I think they were born in a stand-up comedy
They have
shop.
an extra funny bone.
They have a funny bone, a silly bone. And so he was just saying, like, you Ontarians talk like you're slow. And he's like, we talk fast because you got to get all your words in. So are you you're not a fast talker. I can be a fast talker sometimes.
I've also become more slower and more thoughtful in how I speak over the last year.
As you age.
As I age.
More methodical about using
More
less
thoughtful.
words or more words.
Mhm.
Do you overtalk? Are you an overtalker sometimes?
Can be.
Can be.
Mm-hmm. And that's been brought to my attention. There's nothing quite like driving to a family gathering and having your husband say, honey, maybe you could not dominate the conversation at this meal.
Did I say, who said that to you? No one said that to you.
But it probably started with like, please don't be offended, but if you could not dominate the conversation this dinner.
That sounds rude.
And I don't,
that doesn't sound like me.
However, I did choose to not be offended. And I was like, wait a minute. If I am dominating conversation at family dinners, I need to know this. Like, because other people are noticing. If he's noticing, other people are noticing. And I don't want to be that person.
It's good material to know.
So I probably was mad at you for a little while. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I probably, maybe, sometimes what I would do in those circumstances, I would sulk, right? And then not talk at all at the dinner. I don't think I did that.
I think it's good to be more. I think Zoom has brought me into the, because if you're oversharing on Zoom, it's so obvious. And everybody's like, all right, wrap it up.
Rolling our eyes.
And it's like the online content has to be like squished down. And I've been horrible at it. And so a timer is great. A timer has been my best friend in the last few months. Just to go like, this is, yeah. People don't have the same attention in live, but maybe we overshare all the time.
Conversation really is an art.
Maybe we're oversharing right now about oversharing. Who even knows? Conversation is an art. Conversation is like a sport. You think it's art? I think it's like a sport where you're actually playing a game.
Well, but it's an art because you can create something. And so like by inviting other people in. So if I know the right questions to ask, or, I can be inviting and I can invite other people in, and you can actually create intimacy. You can create this like whole environment that didn't exist before through conversation going a certain way or being a certain way, or I've come out of conversations, especially on Zoom, where I'm like, and there's some strangers there. That's always an interesting, these are strangers. Like I'm doing 12-step meetings. So there's people there that I don't know. And then we stick around after the meeting for fellowship. And, there's maybe a small group of people that like know each other. So it's easy to get conversing with them. But then how do you invite other people into that?
So it's almost like creating a little garden, if you will. Very nice. A little bouquet. Huh. I never thought of a conversation like that. Typically, I just want them over so I can do the next thing. I know, it's horrible.
Create safety.
Look at the Newfoundland girl with the emojis. The fast talker.
You create safety and intimacy, and you're creating a lot of things.
I'm not good at building a conversational bouquet. I would just say I probably need help in that area.
We're both interrupters, so that's fun.
I think it's good. I think it's good conversation. I think you're supposed to.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with interrupting, but I do think that being present to hear what the other person is saying, not just having because I would formulate my answer before you're even done talking, right? And that's why I'm interrupting.
I'm doing it right
because
now.
I'm not actually listening to you. I'm figuring out what I'm going to say next.
Well, maybe we're not interrupters. Maybe we're oversharers that need interrupting.
Or just need to learn.
Let's build a bouquet. All right. Freedom to be me. Oh, it's your turn.
Okay.
Freedom to be me. Freedom in recovery.
If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. And that is from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. My first true freedom is the freedom not to have to take a drink today. If I truly want it, I will work the 12 steps, and the happiness of this freedom will come to me through the steps, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. Other freedoms will follow, and inventorying them is a new happiness. I had a new freedom today, the freedom to be me. I have the freedom to be the best me I have ever been. So I would say that yes, my first true freedom today is the freedom not to have to road rage, emotional, like I don't have to get worked up about something. I actually now have the freedom, like this says to not have to take a drink, but for me, I don't have to react on my emotions, which before I didn't have a choice to not do that. I couldn't not react. And you
weren't choosing.
It felt so crazy inside of me that somebody could say something and it's like they pushed a button and and it's like, man, I said I wasn't going to do that again. I said I wasn't going to. So I think that is a freedom to not have to react, to not have to gossip, to not have to be the center of attention.
Freedom to not be controlled. And so like when I look at my addiction, I was being controlled. I had a slave driver that was driving me, and that's not freedom. And so what is freedom today? It's the freedom to, yes, I don't need to drink, but I don't think about it. Like I have that mental obsession that always brought me back to it removed. Mm-hmm. And then we were talking about freedom this morning about like, I think God positions us not to be the director, not to be the employer, not to be the manager, but he positions us to be his child. And we were talking about that earlier, about like we get to be children. And I think we move from being the responsible adults in our lives and the leaders and the employers and the responsible ones. And then we kind of go into the angry teenager mode of like, I don't know. And then like when we look at God as a father, we get to take the position of a child. And like, what does a child wake up with? Like a child wakes up and going like, today's a day. I don't know what day, but it's a day. Look, it's sunny. Are we going to the park? I'm hungry. What can we do today? Are we going to watch a movie today? Are we going to watch? Mm-hmm. And it's like we get to be in the position of a child where God actually takes a responsibility, and we're free to just be with God, to be with our Father. And so like that's a good freedom.
It is.
How do you get that? I guess.
Staying in the work. Discipline. And I mean, the thing is, like, I didn't think that I could be a disciplined person. And it's taken me a long time of trying to implement new practices because I was pretty undisciplined in my life. And that's, it wasn't working for me. And so I had all this like judgment of like what it would look like to live a certain way. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I can't live by a schedule. I'm not going to live by a budget. Like that's just too restricting for me. I can't do it. And so I had all this judgment about all these practices that, I would read in a book or hear that would be so good for me. And I'm like, no, that doesn't work for me. But I've actually dismissed it before I've even really tried it. Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't meditate. I can't meditate. I'm just a very active thinker. Like I'm just a very, I just can't meditate. I was just really dismissive. And when I started this work a year ago, first, what was supposed to be a 6-month program.
And it had to be a lifetime.
I realized like I am very teachable when I want to be teachable. But I want to run the show. Mm-hmm. I don't want someone else telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing. Mm-hmm. But God doesn't actually want to tell me what I should and shouldn't be doing. God is inviting me into a new freedom. Mm-hmm. God is saying like, if you do these things, it will bring joy and peace and, fullness of life into your life. If you could, Vicky, like slow down a little bit. Mm-hmm. I want to be with you. And I'm like, God, I'm too busy for you. I've got my own plans. And that wasn't freedom. Like I was so caught up making the same mistakes over and over and pushing people away and not seeing what was happening.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's when we don't have the right position, then you can tell us something, but you can't tell us much. And it's like when you're a child, a good father disciplines and instructs. And so when you're a teenager, it's hard to instruct those teenagers. Remember? It's like,
but in a sense, though, you let a teenager continue to grow and they get
Yeah,
through
yeah,
those
yeah.
years. They learn their, and then on the other side, like as a parent, right, I take my hands off a little bit. And I think that God does this of like takes his hands off a little bit and he's like, okay, you want to be rebellious, you want to run the show, but he's like, you're going to mature ideally,
Mm-hmm.
and the foundational stuff that's been planted in you will hopefully grow. You'll make a few mistakes and then you'll realize like, oh, I actually need to stay close. I need to, but I'll do it with a new maturity and a new independence.
Because I think our hearts are geared to being independent. I don't want to hold your hand. I don't want to I'm a big boy. And so maybe my meditation today I'm going to bring through the day is like, how do I position myself as a child and be that happy, bubbly? I don't really have a lot of responsibilities. My responsibility is stay close to God and connected and be free. Happy, joyous, and free. That's one of the promises. So we leave you with that. How do I be free? How do I get free? There is a program called LifeLab. It's a workshop that we have, 17 sessions. If you want more information about that, there's a link below. And we would love to invite you into our community and to be a part of that. And we can truly be set free, I do believe. And so, yeah.
If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, you can check out our podcast and subscribe to it on podcast. And then you don't have to like watch a video. You can just like download it to your phone and listen when you're driving.
I thought podcasts were so passé.
And then
recently the younger people that did our digital stuff, they were like, you guys really need a podcast. And they were all kids. And I'm like, I thought podcasts were over.
No.
And they're like, no, you can't just watch videos while you're out watching on a bus or whatever. So
I love it. I love being able to download a podcast and feed my spirit while I'm driving.
You young chick. Let's go listen. Let's get our day going. Keep the peace, be of good behavior, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon.